Around 28 years ago, 1991, was when I first started to realize that something quite unique was happening in my life. Things were starting to change, and back then, I had absolutely no idea that in 28, 30 years' time, I would be somewhere completely unique, somewhere totally different, something that I couldn't even comprehend back then. Because coming from a family of non religious people, shall we say, both on my father's side, on my mother's side, and going back through their generations, I'm not aware of anyone or any families that were religious at all, and I never had any teachings as a child. However, having said that, through my love for music and playing musical instruments, I joined a brass band. In fact, it was two brass bands, and became quite heavily involved with music and going to churches. We practiced in a church, and we went to see old folks in their care homes, and things were just sort of just ticking over as a teenage boy does, going through his life in various forms. But the thing was, I always knew back then that I wanted to be in certain places and performing, making people smile, making people happy, bringing joy to somebody's face. Even at times where Christmas is important to some people because of their families, etc., or they are in a care home and they don't have family or friends, and this little bit of joy was just the light that they needed to see. So time went on, and I went through school, and I eventually became a father. I had children, and 1991 was very significant because things started to happen that I couldn't explain. And I've always been a very straight thinking person. I've always looked for the logic in something, but at the same time, I've been quite open minded about the possibilities. And I remember saying to my late grandma, um, when I was a child and I used to stay at her house, one question sticks in my mind, and that was I said to her, Grandma, when you do die, would you send me a star? I must have only been 6, 7 years old or something at that time. And she said she would. So even at that age, there was a connection there. For me to say that to her, that there was a connection with the stars in the heavens, and that's where she was going to go. She was going to go up and not down. So there was something very early on that, looking back now, those tiny little hints, they've always been there. But 1991 is where it all really started to happen. So I had a child, and two children, in fact, and things just used to happen in the house. Footsteps were heard, sounds and smells, fragrances were detected, children's toys would come on, things would move around. Couldn't be explained. There's one particular day, a friend of mine who I worked with, he came around to visit, and we were just having a chat in the living room, and all of a sudden the toys went off. He looked at me. Nobody was playing with the toys. He looked at me. I looked at him. To me, it became normal. For him, it was a great surprise. And bless his heart, it worried him, so he made his excuses and left. Well, this continued. Moved house, thinking maybe a change of house property location might solve the problem. Now I know it wasn't a problem. And the reason I know it's not a problem is because it was a sign. Even then, throughout the decade of the 1990s, lots of things were happening. On one occasion, a cup had smashed. It was a brand new cup. It had smashed. It was cleaned up. It was put into the dustbin, and that night went to bed, forgot about it. The next morning, got up very early because I was working an early shift, and all of the cups were back on the rack, all of them. To my astonishment, the broken cup was no longer in the bin. This was something that I couldn't explain. I wasn't quite sure what to think about it. There was often a smell of cigarette smoke, a smell of pipe smoke. Now, looking back, I know that because my grandfather on my father's side, he was a pipe smoker, and my grandfather on my mother's side, he was a cigarette smoker. So all of these signs were coming through for the rest of the 90s, and it became so normal in my life that I just worked around it. Things would go missing. Items like a book or jewellery would go missing for days on end, only to be returned a few days later, always on the bed. When the bed was made and clean and fresh, the item was there in the centre of the bed. Now, of course, the person I was with at that time, we spoke about it and we discussed it, and we both said, look, this is not a joke. Are you doing anything? No. Am I doing anything? No. We cleared that matter up, and true as it is today, nobody was doing anything other than getting on with life. So these things went on. And then towards the 2000s, this is when it sort of changed from about 97, 98. Sadly, that relationship didn't work, and I moved on, and things were a little bit in the air for a couple of years whilst I was starting to find my feet again. So now I'm going to take you forward to about the year 2003, 2004. Around this time, I moved to Mansfield, which is the centre of the UK, and I relocated there, met another person, and one day we went to a mind, body, and spirit fair in Mansfield, and it was there that I met a gentleman. He caught my eye, I caught his eye, and eventually we had to have a discussion. And he's a psychic, he's a clairvoyant, he's a medium, and his name is Barry John. So if you want to look at Barry John's work, he's now a very famous psychic medium. He's been on TV in the UK. He's got a wonderful following. And he asked me to come along and work with him and his group as a sensitive, because at that time I was inexperienced, didn't have any qualifications in any sort of paranormal investigations or anything like that. Not that you can have qualifications, really. Now I've learnt this through my own personal journey. So I worked with him for about 6 months, and we did various tours and various evenings with lots of guests arriving, etc. Lots of wonderful things. And I was able to give customers messages and information about their past loved ones and people that passed over in their lives, etc. And I'm still not quite sure where all of this is going. Do I have some kind of psychic ability? What's going on here? So the next step was my partner at that time, she thought it would be a good idea, as I did, to continue the Reiki, because when I was at the Mind, Body and Spirit Fair, there was a stall there with a gentleman that was performing Reiki with crystals, and I immediately became attracted and interested in what he was doing. And I spoke to a lady there as well, who then became my tutor, my Reiki tutor. She was a Reiki master. So upon the first session with her, she put me through a regression. So I was sat in a chair and relaxed, and she taught me through the various stages of relaxation and into meditation. And this wonderful experience unraveled. And I was telling her about a situation where I'd met this certain person. He was a native North American Indian, and also I had a wife with long brown hair in plaits, and I also had a wild-looking dog that was almost a wolf that was a pet, and that pet was called Santo. Now, as I was explaining that to her, she told me after I came out of the regression that she could feel the brushy tail of the animal around her leg as we were talking and going through this discussion whilst in the regression. Once I came out of that regression, in a state of somewhere in between that I couldn't explain, consciousness, I said, I've had a message, it's for you. So from me, I was given a message to give to my tutor, and what it was, I was given an image in my mind, and on the image there was a strong red glowing, an amber bright orange glowing. It was throbbing, pulsing, growing like that. And it was around the kidney area. I think it was the left side, if my memory serves me well. So when I told her that information, she looked shocked because she said, my mum's just been diagnosed with a condition of the kidney and she's really poorly. So that to me was a revelation, because how did that information come about? Where did I go for this story, this regression, this event? Where did I go for that? So I was really, really interested. And of course, I wanted to know more. So my Reiki work continued. I love working with people and I love working with energy. Now, some of my first clients back in that day, so around 2004, 2005, they were mainly friends because I was working with and practicing my service with friends. And this one particular time, I went to this friend's house and she invited me in because she had some issues with some sort of negativity she referred to. She wasn't sure what it was. It wasn't causing her any harm, but she wasn't happy about it. So upon my investigation, I went onto the third floor of the property of a small terraced house. And in that room, it was a bedroom, I was drawn to the corner. It was the far right-hand corner. And I was drawn down to my knees. And all of these emotions came through me. And upon standing up, she said, I can't believe it. You are surrounded by hundreds of white lights, hundreds of small white orbs all around you, moving, dancing and flickering. She said, it looks beautiful. It feels peaceful and beautiful. What is this? And I couldn't answer because I didn't know. I was still learning myself. My Reiki work was reduced a little bit whilst I went into training and I joined the police service. And of course, this was very demanding, took up a lot of your time, etc. Couldn't really get my body into a routine because of the shifts. And the Reiki side of things, it just sort of sat on the back row, sat on the back seat for a little bit. So I'm going to move forward now a little bit more to around 3 years ago. Now, where I live now on the east coast of England, for my birthday, my partner said, would you like to have another go at the Reiki, become qualified, become a practitioner? And she purchased a animal Reiki course for me, and it was done online, and I completed the course basically within 3 days and got all the certificates. And it was then that I set up the Shaun Rose Animal Reiki. I set that up online through Facebook, and now I have a channel called Shaun Rose Healing. But 3 years ago, I joined a group on Facebook called the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group. On there, I met lots of wonderful people, and I started to introduce my service to them, and they became really interested, asking for help and advice. This then led me to set up what is now called Shaun Rose Healing. Back then, 3 years ago, it was set up through that group. I did a live session every Thursday, helping people, talking, offering healings and advice. And now I do that on my own Facebook profile. I also have the YouTube channel. But every Thursday now, still 2.5 years later, every Thursday at 7:45, I sit for an hour here and talk to wonderful people all over the world. And we go through chakra alignment, chakra healing, etc., teaching those people how to work through the chakras. But the interesting thing here is about 2 years ago, something happened. An image occurred in my head, in my mind, that I could not decipher. But I knew what it was. Deep inside, I knew what it was. But I wasn't sure. So one day I went into the bathroom and I stood, and with emotion and conviction and passion, I asked for the Lord to come into my life. Whatever energy is around me right now, the energies that I'm working with, if this is source energy or higher consciousness, God force energy, life force energy, the Christ energy, I wanted to embrace it, and I asked for signs. I was not disappointed. The following day, I was given two little birds outside my door, just chicks, just sat there looking up at me. I had signs of feathers landing on my hands, on my car, in front of my feet. I closed my eyes to wash my face one morning, and I had an image of what I can only describe as Jesus. A full image. Of course, I asked for more and asked for more help, and it came. So, through research, I realized that I had to work through my chakra system to get into the higher chakras, to activate the third eye, the brow chakra. And through regular practice and meditation, the third eye has now been activated for that amount of time, for 18 months, 2 years. And I've asked Source Energy to come into my life and give me information and guide me through. And that's what they do. So now every Thursday, I offer teachings, guidance, spoken meditation, fully guided meditation, and healing for all people, all animals, everywhere. We ascend through the chakras, and just now, literally just now, 2 days ago, I've released the Ascension Project, and that is a weekly session, live streamed, where I'm getting those people that are watching, listening, and following to work through the chakras the same as I do, to do all of the grounding work, the meditation, the breathing, the relaxation, and everything, because I want those people to be like me, to be ascending through that journey. Now, my third eye and my crown chakra are connected exactly on a beautiful high vibration. The frequency is there. My third eye, it vibrates and pulses so many times every day, and the information is coming through, the energy is coming through. My aura is huge. I started to see auras around trees when I was younger, and it's only recently that that has now come through, and I can see auras around animals and people. And one of my services that I offer are a fully illustrated and video um, aura illustration. So basically, a client will send me a photograph of themselves against a light colored background. I will then in turn draw their form with all of the colors and the shapes of the aura, and then put that into a video, giving them a breakdown of what each color represents and what it means. There's even been drawings where I can't actually draw on the paper. No matter what I do, no matter what medium I use, it will not go on there. And time after time, people have said to me, my gosh, that's because my husband was always on that side, or my pet dog that I lost was always on my right-hand side, obviously at floor level. That's why you can't draw around there. It's almost like it's protected. So this is just making me even more and more interested. And a lot of my friends online are in India, and I know that they sometimes struggle to gain finances and to book services and things like that. Well, I want to go to India and I want to connect with these people. And I want to start in India because I want to go to these remote villages and these small towns and these areas that are struggling day to day. And I want to reach those people that are losing faith. And I want to show them and influence them how to heal themselves and what to believe in themselves and to come inside where everything is inside. I can only do that if I can get out there and physically make contact with these people. I'm aware that a lot of people cannot access electricity, let alone devices and the internet, and freedom to browse the internet across the world. And I want to get down to those people. I have friends in mind that I'd like as guides or translators, as aides, and I've recently just set up a fund, albeit that fund is going very slow at the moment. I need help to gain those funds just to cover my basic costs, basic travel expenses, etc., and to cover my time in India. I seek nothing more, just financial gain enough to get me to where I need to be. I want to speak to everybody. When I finish with India, I want to move on to another country, another continent. And I want to help as many people as possible because they can do it. Unfortunately, the secret has been quietened down, lost, forgotten, subdued, averted, diverted. And it's now time to give the people the truth about what really lies within each individual. This is a wonderful journey. My experiences are getting better every single day. My ascension, what I can see, especially during those transient moments between sleep, early morning, late evening, where I can visit those different layers, those non-physical realms, those spheres of existence where the non-physical are currently residing. I see it regularly. They talk to me on a regular basis, and I want to get out to them. I need to do this full time. At the moment, I'm working at a school with children with SEN, special educational needs, with autism, with behavioural problems, family, domestic problems. That is what I do. I get in there and I help these children. Adults with autism, I've worked with them in the past. They do not have opinions like most people. They are wide open and they sense and they know and benefit when I'm around. And my work with them is just off the scale. It's so improved their life, their school life, and their home life, and their outlook on everything. And I want to get more people to do this. I want to join networks. I want to talk to people that are thinking the same as me, or I think the same as them. And I want to encompass the whole world, get that information out to them. It's really been a pleasure putting this little bio together. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you soon. Take care, and goodbye.